Yes, many thanks for staying tuned with us on Frontline this morning. Now we move on to the interview segments of the show where we want to look at something that has generated a lot of reactions from different quarter, and of course we also like to contribute to this issue as it's been generating a lot of criticism as well all over the world, and it's about the journey in service, the autobiography of General Ibrahim Babangida, who is the Nigeria former military president between August 27, 1985 and August 26, 1993. The 440-page memoirs offers an in-depth look into his life, his military career, and the political landscape of Nigeria during this tenure. And the book has received mixed reactions from various political figures and members of the public. And we also like to look deeply into some of these issues that the book has generated. And joining us to have this conversation this morning is a friend of the house. It is my pleasure to have Mr. Sam Owoko in the studio with me. He's a political analyst and also the chairman of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Nigerian Tribune chapter. It's good to have you once again on the program.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Good to be here.
Thank you so much. Let me first ask you a general question on how do you feel about this autobiography and with the polity that surrounds it?
Yes, I think one good thing about it all is that at least he wrote. So we have a perspective. And I think now, maybe to a large extent, we have a closure on who won the June 12, 1993 election. So at least we have a closure on that. Yes, Professor Omorui had written and said so many things. Professor Humphrey Nwosu, who conducted the elections of that era, also had spoken and said the same thing. But now the president and commander-in-chief, who was on the throne when the issues happened, has now said, yes, what they said, what Omorui and Nwosu and others said is true.
It's true.
So at least we have a closure on that. That's one of the things I took away from the memoir, the book. Then another thing about the book is that it has shown that at the top, at that level, there is no barrier. There are no barriers. There are no boundaries. Those people at the top are one. Otherwise, why would someone like even President Tinubu himself be among the people who went? He said he went there to listen and so on. And I felt no, they shouldn't be. If indeed we are looking for reconciliation and trying to build another kind of country, but again, it is what it is. This is Nigeria. A lot of people have said we should forgive. Yeah, we may not forget, but we can forgive. So that's what I think about the book.
So how would you characterize Babangida's narrative in this autobiography, despite everything everybody have been saying about it?
You see, Babangida has remained very wily. He has remained his Maradonic self ever. He had to be tactful in his use of words and in his description of many events that he touched on. Look at that of Delegiwa, look at in fact, there is one, many people say, because I haven't read the book anyway, but I've read excerpts, I've seen a lot of reactions on it. So, somebody who is close to me has it, and I haven't been able to read. There was a $12 billion issue he skipped completely, and a whole lot of other things. But one thing, he brought out the best in many Nigerians. We read, we saw people like Dr. Chu S.P. Okongu. We saw Olufalaye, Chief Olufalaye. We saw Kalu Idika Kalu. We saw many eggheads whom he brought together. Professor Godwin Sogulu. He brought people together who gave him policies. People dusted files of ideas of Chief Awolowo, brushed them up, and he ran with it. One of it was DFRI, Directorate for Foods and Rural Infrastructural Development, which gave birth to the many things local governments are doing up to today. There was Wharncliffe, though that one came after the military, and so on. So all those ideas the foundations had been laid by Better Life for Rural Women. We didn't even know what that rural women used to be called, rural women. So so many ideas he brought from the eggheads that he surrounded himself with. So I think his writing of the book has given us a new vista of conversation, which is one of the reasons we are here today.
Yeah, exactly.
And we are learning a lot, and we are beginning to see that indeed many things are not what they appear to be by the tokens with which we knew them. So those are some of the things I saw about the entire polity, the things around it, and so on and so forth. But the conversation continues.
It continues, exactly. Before we talk about one of the heated arguments, which is the June 12 annulment election, there's this particular one that I like us to quickly touch down on. That is the SAP, that is the Structural Adjustment Program, which was introduced in 1986, and the program was implemented with the support of World Bank and IMF, which was one of the aims is to restructure Nigeria economy after an economic crisis that happened between 1983 and 1985, which was to address the Nigeria economic woes. And one of the criticism about this SAP was the fact that it has contributed to the economic woes Nigerians find themselves
till today. Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Let me tell you one interesting thing about my experience of structural adjustment program. I was just getting into secondary school then, that time. And as a young person, so some of the things my father used to do, he was unable to do them. Even he reduced his smoking. Yes, because what he did was when he gets his pay packets, they used to pay them in an envelope, perforated envelope. So he would bring out the money, take money for his cigarettes, and give my mom the rest. I knew that. But one day he sent me to Yaremi. That's where I normally buy it. I buy a row of white SM. So I got there and they told me that white SM was no longer the price. That in fact, the woman said, "Look, I'm even tired." So I ran back home and said, "Daddy, this is what the woman selling cigarettes told me." And my father sunk in his chair and said, "What is going on?" Structural adjustment program. A lot of inflation took place at that time. My school fees was increased to about 64 naira, and with WAEC fee it used to be 48 naira and things like that. So I recall that the memory wasn't palatable. Food became very expensive, and remember, it flowed from the Buhari administration. Because when he took over from Buhari in 1985, August 1985 or thereabouts, there was jubilation in UI, there was jubilation in Orita UI, all the streets and so on. We were dancing, and we didn't understand what it meant, but we felt the era of queuing for food and being flogged by soldiers and so on was over. So structural adjustment program came, and a lot of things changed in Nigeria, and till today, I think we are still under the grips, and we are still being string puppeted by Bretton Woods institutions, including IMF, World Bank, and so on. So we have not been able to win ourselves of their grip. We've not been able to loosen ourselves. And those are the people that laid the foundation. They agreed that these things should be done, and here we are today. We are still suffering from the pangs of those things. And maybe one day somebody will just say, "Look, we don't want IMF and World Bank and all these other people. Take your ideas to elsewhere. Let us develop, homegrown solutions to our problems." Maybe one day we are going to rise and have something like that. But for now,
do you see us towing that path?
It's a bit difficult, because I am one of the people who believe that we are not our own people. By that I mean that our rulers have subjected themselves to certain agreements which they implement back home to create the kind of conditions we have. That is why our development is very slow and stagnant. We may not be getting as much as, in terms of the natural, we have human resources, but our human resources are not being utilized to tap and make the best of the natural resources God has given us as a country, and that has kept us down. Others are mining our resources, and all these resources are going to foreign lands. And those are some of the things that flow from these international intervention organizations. I believe that I am of that school of thought.
All right, sir. So one of the key moments in the book in Babangida's is Babangida handling of the June 12, 1993 presidential election, which he annulled, which also sparked a national crisis. So what is your take on how he addresses these events in the memoir? Considering the fact that 1993 to this time is close to 40 years, I think.
Yes. 1993. Interestingly, I was among the people who were watching the voters that day. Samonda. Samonda is Ward 11, Ibadan North local government. So they herded us to Emmanuel College Primary School in Orita UI. You know, some of us were already coming of age, and we are like, okay, this is how it's. In fact, I registered with SDP, waiting for the opportunity. Now, when the election was annulled, it was the first time we heard the word
annulled. Exactly.
It was very strange. In fact, I was in a place where I was to eat beans and bread with my friend. His name is Isiaka. So we sat down, and the 4 o'clock news came and said, the June 12, 1993 election has been annulled. So we said, what does annulled mean? We felt maybe there was something that we are going to do about it. So after the meal, I ran home, looked in the dictionary. There was no mobile phone, of course. I looked in the dictionary and I saw,
the meaning.
So we became angry, and it was an instantaneous reaction. Though we were very young and, we were just fluid. There was no direction per se. And I was fresh in UI then. So the handling of the June 12 annulment in his book, from his book you could see that he's trying to exonerate himself. He's saying that it was Abacha that did this and that and so on. Unfortunately, I have learned that military men are not always their own men. No matter how strong a man is, there is always a soft side of him. So that soft side of Babangida is what we are seeing now. Many people have criticized him as a very cowardly general. Many people have said, yes, Abacha was tougher and so on. And he said it's Abacha that did this. So why is he running away from the blame? He has taken it, but he was only speaking after many of the actors, the main actors in the issue. Professor Mori is dead. Humphrey Nwosu used to be buried this weekend. A lot of events has even come up after that. Yes, Humphrey Nwosu used to be buried this weekend. Abacha has long died, and so on and so forth. So it's unfortunate that we are here today. But I think Joshua Dogon-Yaro is still around. I'm not sure. I don't know. But he was one of the people mentioned by people like Professor Nwosu. And you remember, Professor Omo Omorui was the chairman or the head of the National Democratic Institute. Nobody queried all that he wrote. He was the first person that said, look at Abacha very well in this issue. But many people have not been, he is not on the front burner in the discussion. So now that IBB has said it, we take it as it is. It is what it is. We move on as a country.
But do you think these reasons hold any weight for Nigerians after these years? Because I keep asking myself, what does this information tends to do?
Yes, what does it amount to? One of the questions I asked in an interview I conducted was, does IBB deserve Nigerians' forgiveness? Because a lot went with June 12. Apart from the fact that Chief MKO Abiola did not survive this, it took Abacha, whether we want to believe it or not. It was the crisis that consumed him. Because I remember that when he died, there was jubilation. I never saw that kind of thing before. So it took Abiola, it took Abacha, it took Abiola's wife, it took Alfred Rewane, it took...
those are renowned Nigerians. What about common Nigerians?
Now, apart from those ones, of course, it almost took Chief Abraham Adesanya. But what about the people who were on the streets? I was on the streets, even though I may not completely know what I was doing. How about the people who were detained, people who ran into exile, and so on and so forth? Baba Femi Ojudu was detained for a very long time. When he came back, Chief Ganifa, when they came back from detention, they were looking very different because they had grown beards and so on. So I still remember the photographs, the pictures of these people in my eyes. A lot got ruined. The economy and so on. Shoneko came, and you see, all the shenanigans. Now, he has said he is sorry and we should, Abiola won the election. And, okay, so what are we going to do with that information at this level? Some have said, okay, declare Abiola as a former president of this country and grant him the necessary paraphernalia. Maybe they are going to do that as part of the issues that will be a follow-up from IBB's confessions now. And again, you remember we have changed our national holiday from May 29 to June 12. It's also part of it. One way or the other, we are going to arrive somewhere. But as things stand now, tempers are still rising. Some have even said IBB should be arrested.
I saw the tweet as well.
I don't know who will go arrest IBB. I don't know. I don't, some people are big.
The revelation was so huge on people that this was coming at a critical time in the country where perhaps if we traced it to 1993, perhaps all of this problem emanated right from the time of annulment. I think that was what spurred the anger in Nigerians.
Yeah, I remember my hands are tied. I remember that. I remember seeing him on NTA saying, Allah. He swore. He said, Allah, I have no hidden agenda. I remember all these things. I remember the interview in which he described himself as the evil genius. It was the interview was conducted by Judu and Co. It was in Tell magazine. All that had been said are still around the same issue, June 12 and its pangs on the country. Now that we have arrived at this point, maybe those who are thinking for our rulers will be able to come up with something which would help the country to make this issue, instead of it hurting Nigerians the more, make it useful for us so that we can,
opening up a lot of
it can serve as a springboard for us to move from here.
So let's talk about the political landscape it governed. In your view, will you say that this political landscape and all this revelation coming from the memoirs has anything to do with the present leadership or the present landscape Nigeria operates?
I really don't think it has anything to do with the present life. You see, for me, the first thought I had was IBB wants to make peace with his maker. He wants to, because he's an old man now and he's been indisposed for a very long time.
Overdue.
So I'm thinking that at this at this evening of his life, at this denouement of his life, he's like, okay, let me just try and make peace with God, the Almighty, and generally ease myself of these burdens and apologize for all the things I have done, and then wait for my time. That's one of the first things that struck me when I read that he was going to release his book. Then, how does it affect the current political landscape? Nigerians, we forget things easily. Now that the issue is hot, onjo wadu. After now that the flame has, burnt and all the majala would have settled and the dust is settled, we move on. Don't forget that by December, by later this year, come next year, the new political landscape is going to emerge. We are a lot of new things are going to emerge from the horizon, and it's going to change a lot of things. In fact, many people will forget that IBB launched a book. It will only be mentioned in passing in certain areas and so on and so forth, since he did not specifically mention what is happening now. But the other areas through which it can affect the current polity is the issue, his disclosure on the civil war, which is also not a disclosure because a lot of people had written about it. Then this is June 12 issue. Depending on how the current administration handles the information contained in it, well, I don't know. But to a large extent, it may not affect the current polity beyond what we have seen at the moment.
Okay, let me quickly take a pause on that as we talk about this clamoring for public apology from Nigerians, that Babangida should come out and make a public apology and not just some memoirs that has come out recently. What is your take on this?
That he should speak and
apologize.
And say, Nigerians, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, I also had thought he would have done that long before now. Maybe he will say he has been doing it in subtle ways and so on. He doesn't want to do it directly. Nigerians are laggy there. You know, we are a bit heady when it comes to that. And it is not always in our character to come up and say, I am sorry. You know, so I had thought about that. But with the memoir and everything he has said, I think we have to move on. Because if you look very well, the country itself has a lot of... In fact, one other area, we have a lot to apologize for. IBB has a lot to apologize for. Gowon hasn't said anything. You know, he hasn't apologized, he hasn't written a memoir. Maybe he has one, maybe tomorrow now we'll hear that he wants to launch. Abdul Salami Abubakar and IBB are classmates, they are friends, they grow Garba Duba, Uba Sani, Sami or something. I remember those names back in the days. Jerry Husseini, Jerry Boy, and so on and so forth. A lot of people need to apologize to Nigerians. And since IBB is like taking it, I think it's his own personal way of saying sorry, sorry for what has happened. This is me saying sorry. You know, look at the issue of Mamman Vatsa, his friend that was killed for a coup. Many have said is phantom. You know, so all these things, a lot. Even our current president, he was in the picture in June 12 issues now. And he has some people believe that he was not completely a Nadeko person as claims came out. He ran because certain things fell out of place for him. So, because some people had accused him of running with the sheep and hunting with the hare back in those days. So, a lot of Nigerians need to apologize to Nigerians and Nigeria.
So this Babangida autobiography is an attempt that reflects on his life service in Nigeria. Do you think this will help Nigeria better understand his action during his time in power, or do you think this will further debate and controversy?
Now that the book is coming some 27, almost 30 years after the events, now it's going to form. Many people who were involved in it have not written and narrated their experiences, and Nigerians hardly read. Not many Nigerians read. So it is going to form debates. It's going to form a lot of conversations. It's going to trigger, I'm sure it's going to reshape certain opinions on certain things. And hey, no book is completely useless. So he has written his own. Like Chino Achebe said, if you don't agree with what I have written, write your own. So he should, let's wait for others to write their own. People have said Abubakar Umar should write, Gowon should write, Abdul Salami Abubakar should write. They are all in it. They know what happened. Beyond June 12th, they know what happened. So, hey, what are we talking about? They should also write.
Right. So for people at the corridor of power, what lesson do you think this whole scenario should teach them? Particularly the June 12 annulment and all the politics that surrounded it.
It should just teach them that power is transient. IBB, I remember, was the one who declared that we are not just in government, we are in power. Yes, it should be IBB. You know, so they were not just in government, they were in power. And what does that mean? Beyond being the ones running the government, they are also the ones controlling what the government does and so on and so forth. So all the people who are in authority should learn from that. IBB has become history. And now everybody else will become history one way or the other. Now, so to some extent, people are saying IBB is looking for a way, forgiveness and so on and so forth. It will get to a time when you will also be looking for forgiveness. You will look back and say, now maybe this, you know. So they should learn that as a lesson. Where is Abacha today? Abacha was very strong back in the days. He was in control. He was completely untouchable, you know. Abacha shut the world out, or the world shut us out, and he didn't mind. Frank Oviekokori and others made the country to come on its knees, and Abacha did not budge. So we are today. So the world it's dynamic. We are moving, and you know, like the Igbo we say, this world is a market. When you are done buying your own, you waka. So we should learn this lesson. But hey, when people get to that position, when you also get into that place, you see that sometimes you tend to forget that these things come to an end at certain points. Hey, when you see what happens at the corridors of power, it's always difficult for them to shed that garb and become normal again. So that is one of the problems in that place. And I hope that those who are there today will learn from it and, you know, try to move on. But as recent as Jonathan, Mrs. Jonathan was speaking at a program in Bayelsa the other day. What some of us did was to say, this is this woman, we are seeing her face again. And she said she just came from Mexico, and so I say, nobody remembers. But before now, it would have been written that she's off to Mexico, she did this and so on. So we should learn lessons.
It's transient.
Not it's transient, it's completely, you know, like the Bible says it, you know. A generation comes, a generation goes, but the world, the earth remains forever. So we should learn from that.
Well, I believe there is a purpose for everything. In as much we have seen this thing long overdue, that the apology, the old memoirs should have come before now. Perhaps Nigerians would have understood better and maybe make excuses even for General Ibrahim Babangida, but it is what it is. The deed has been done, and we cannot undo what has been done. Yes. So Nigerians should just move on. But I believe, just like we said, that there are a lot of lessons to learn from all of these events that is happening in the country at the moment, and we just hope that these lessons will play out positively in the political landscape of Nigerians. I want to say a very big thank you to Mr. Sam Okoko for your time again on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And to our viewers, I want to say thank you for being part of the show since the beginning even till now. We'll see you again tomorrow by God's grace. Until then, I am Temitope Oladipo. Do have a wonderful day.